We are gathered to discuss the future of Lazarus.
On the next all-new episode of Lazarus.
Say we get our hands on Skinner. Will we really get the freedom they promised us?
Seems like we might know too many of their secrets.
Exactly.
So once the job is done, they'll just erase us along with it.
Bring forth the witness and have them testify.
Are you saying we've got a mole?
Possibly.
Lazarus. Next Saturday at midnight on Toonami. Next day on Max.
The time has come for the Vandenreich to launch its invasion of the Soul Society.
On the next all-new episode of Bleach, 1,000-Year Blood War.
I know all about you, Ichigo Kurosaki.
In fact, you're listed as a special threat whose elimination is a top priority!
Bleach, 1,000-Year Blood War. Next Saturday at 12:30 a.m. on Toonami.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast, Toonami Therapy. It's May 15th of 2025. I'm Michael.
I'm Tommy.
And we do not actually have that much to discuss this week comparatively. All Toonami did was they aired Lazarus and then a bunch of more Lazarus reruns. So we do have one Lazarus episode to talk about. And that's basically it for Toonami. After that, we'll talk about our various non-Toonami series. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So I guess we'll just get into it then. So we have Lazarus episode 6. So they find out that there's going to be that apparently there is some AI copy of Skinner or something that was the leader of a cult somehow. I can't remember the exact explanation. So they decide, okay, we need to infiltrate them to look into this. And apparently no one else has bothered to do this before us. And by pure coincidence, it turns out that one of the crew used to be a member. Her family was part of that. So they go back, try to infiltrate. Well, they get caught, and then they're going to be burned, except they're going to be killed by burning in one of the most needlessly convoluted and slow ways to do it. To make sure that, if they had just tied them up and literally just burned them at the stake, that could cause, actual physical damage, and we can't have that. We need to have them be safe when they're rescued, which they're rescued, of course, because it seems the government now decided, oh yeah, maybe we should look into this thing here. So basically all of that ends up being solved. All the cult members who are going to be killed, who are going to, I think, kill themselves or be killed by the computer, I can't remember which, are not killed. And then I guess the AI thing dies. And what was its name? It was Naga. I remember it because a few times I misheard it as Maga. So, and yep, but I guess they get the memory bank or something from it and are able to analyze it. So maybe this wasn't maybe something was accomplished here. But other than that, yeah, it was just we did all this stuff. I don't know if we accomplished anything, but we spent half an hour on it.
Yeah, that's the problem with this show. It's trying so hard to be Cowboy Bebop, and it's kind of failing at that, but I don't know where we're trying to get to in this thing. We're trying to get to Dr. Skinner and find him, but we barely increase any chances of finding him each week. So yeah. I think there was one computer thing at the very end that popped up, and I think that was supposed to mean something. It was a whole bunch of gobbledygook that was, computer language, but I couldn't figure it out. So it didn't work for me.
Yeah, unfortunately, I happened to be looking. I got distracted by something, was looking at something else, and then I just turned back towards for just a few seconds. Then I turned back, and then it's like, wait, what appeared? What happened? I didn't see. Oh no! But I guess if it's important, it'll be in the next episode. But yes, the unfortunate problem I think is just I think a lot of issues with this series go back to the point they set up this very specific and very urgent goal. Cowboy Bebop did not. I mentioned before it didn't really have a goal, but that it's fine if you want to have one. Let's set Cowboy Bebop aside. Here's I think the better comparison. Samurai Champloo. There they had a goal. They were going to find the samurai who smelled of sunflowers, but but that they never really made much progress in that throughout the series until the end. It was more of a, well, we'll get to it eventually thing for the story. It wasn't just, we need to find the samurai who smells like of sunflowers, or else because he has the cure to this plague that's going to kill all of us in 1 month or something. There's a big difference between those. I think if this, and it also brings up the questions, well, why is it that this group is the only one doing all these things? Are the governments, they didn't think to do these things that they're doing? I think what they should have done, now I can't say if everything would have been, if you could have done a lot of things very different at the start, because I don't know where this goes. Maybe this urgency was necessary towards the end, but I think it would have made more sense if this was, instead of it being some giant worldwide announcement, only a few people heard about this. And they're like, okay, we need to, and maybe other people didn't. And these guys are like, okay, we got the person in charge of this Lazarus group is like, okay, I need to get, I guess, a bunch of people together to try to look into this and all that stuff. And it not being as certain that it's all, everyone's going to die. If it was just set up as more of a, well, we've got some suspicions about this, let's go and track this guy down to verify it. If it had been more of a sort of, yeah, it's important, but we don't absolutely have, what are we at, 17 days now, to do it.
Yeah, or maybe if it was a thing like Noah, like the Bible story where, Noah says the world's going to end and no one believes him. If it was something like that, where they said, oh, everyone's going to die and no one believed them, maybe that would work better in this situation. Because, at least we'd have the feeling that, okay, no one else believes them, so that's the reason why no one else is trying to do the same thing. But it seems like you've got 99.9999999% of the Earth doesn't really care that they're going to die in 17 days. And that doesn't make all that much sense. So, yeah.
That's actually a good point. I didn't think about. We've seen the news about people, getting upset or anything. But for the most part, what we're seeing in the world is just everything going on the same as it was. So are people believing this? Are people thinking it's a fake? I have these questions, or as I saw one person mention, the previous episode was they were trying to lure Skinner out. So they set up this big announcement that they, hey, we have the cure to this. Everything's great. And then, it turns out, well, it wasn't. It was just trying to get there. All right. So I think about it. So everyone's going to die in 20 days or something. And they say, we got the cure. We're all good. Next day, sorry, we made that all up. And then that's it. And no one, I guess, cares, or there's no reaction. Now, maybe there's a bunch of, now you can say, okay, maybe some of this stuff is just, it's not what we're focusing on. We're focusing on these guys, not all the general media and all that stuff. But it still is every time we have these sorts of, every glimpse we do get, it seems, of people's regular lives, there isn't much any changing things. Do people believe this? I'm not even really sure at this point. It's just vague on it. I think like I said, this should have, whether it be people not believing in it or if it had just been like kind of a something kept secret or something, I think they should have just tried to approach it like that. And then
Mhm.
if there's that gets rid of these, and if there's not such an immense immediate rush, we don't have to keep wondering like, oh well, what? No, we don't keep getting annoyed by lack of progress. Because like, let's look at this episode. Suppose it was,
Mhm.
in an episode of Cowboy Bebop, they had to, I don't know, they were trying to find, they needed to get to suppose this was kind of an episode of Cowboy Bebop. Obviously, you need to
Yeah.
make a bunch of changes, but the characters decide we need to infiltrate this cult to find something, and they do
Right.
that and this sort of stuff. And these sorts of things happen. That would have, and at the end, they're like, well, we didn't get anything. That would have been, actually, that's what happens in a lot of Cowboy Bebop episodes
Yeah.
now that I think about it. Don't get anything.
Yeah.
But because again, it's not like there's not a time crunch, there's not an immediate goal. So
Right.
it would have worked fine on something like that. And here I'm just like, well, why did we spend an episode on this? Now, maybe, like I said, the series is not over. Maybe we're going to come back to some of this and it'll be revealed, hey, all this stuff actually did matter and it led to this thing. So that might be the case. It's just for now, it feels so, it just doesn't feel like we're progressing the plot.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's yeah, I I I read somewhere where someone was talking about comparing it to Cowboy Bebop and um how much it's failed in that aspect, but truth is those are two totally different shows, and this one has that urgency of the world's going to end, which doesn't really make sense that like a disease would kill every single person all on the exact same day. But okay, we have to go with that. Okay, the disease is going to kill everyone on the exact same day. But
I don't think that's the case. I think that's when people will start to die because the guy set it up so that like, what was it, like 3 years or whatever after you take it, it kills you. And since other people took it at different times, I assume that this deadline is just to when people start dying and such. But it wouldn't be everyone on this date. It just would be the point is, well, people are dying. Lots of people are dying. At this point, it's just going to get worse.
I see. Okay, that makes a little more sense, though. You could have had someone who refused to take it, and I don't know. There's just so many plot holes in this,
I don't think every human is actually going to die. Just all the ones that used this miracle drug, which would have been a lot of them. So it's not, I mean, it's not like, again, it's not every single person will die. It's just, well, a whole crazy ton of people are going to die, which is still a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we'll see what happens next episode. We still got half of the season left. Maybe we'll get more. It's just I keep seeing, it seems like I keep having the same problems with episodes, and these problems just keep feeling more and more blatant as it goes on. Okay. Well, that, I suppose, is it for Lazarus. Next week, we'll have a bunch more Toonami, including some series that are probably going to be more interesting to discuss. Well, actually, I guess this was kind of interesting to discuss, but more interesting to watch.
Yeah.
We'll have Bleach and also Blue Exorcist Season 2, the not filler version. So, all right. Okay, well, I guess that's it for the Toonami series then. And we move on then to Yu Yu Hakusho episode 54. So basically this one is some of them, doing some preparations for the final round of the tournament. Kuwabara pulls off something with that thing Suzuka gave him to like make a sword, except we don't see it because, we got to have the big surprise for when he actually fights.
Right.
So going through all of that, a bunch of that sort of stuff, they cut to the final round and they're going to start, but there's only 4 people on each team, and then the tournament says, yeah, we need 5 people. So Team Toguro just grabs, I can't remember his name, but like the rich guy, he's just like, yeah, I'm just here. I'm not going to fight or anything, but I'm the 5th member. And our team ends up getting Koenma, who just admits, yeah, I'm not going to fight either. I've got this jetpack to escape if I need to. And now we're going to start out with Kurama fighting Karasu, I think is his name. That's it. Yep, that was our episode.
There was an extraordinary amount of time put into Botan and the other girls trying to get tickets to the event, and then having this scalper try to con them out of it or something, and they kind of fooled him and got the tickets, which it's kind of stupid. It's like, okay, you're friends of the people who are competing, but yet you can't even get into the stadium. It doesn't make sense.
Botan did say she forgot to ask Koenma for the tickets.
Oh, okay. Yeah. They spent a little too much time on that, I thought. Like, I feel like this could have been half an episode. Like, they could have, like, said, okay, we don't have a 5th member, and then have a reaction shot by all like every time Kuwabara brought up now I go, what's her name?
Yukina?
No, the woman who died.
Oh, Genkai.
Genkai, yeah. So every time he brings up Genkai, then we have 3 reaction shots of Yusuke and the other 2 guys, trying to hide the fact that she died. And that happened like about 3 or 4 times. And it was like, okay, we get it, Kuwabara's being left out of the loop on this, which doesn't even make sense. Like, why can't Kuwabara know about this? Like, is there real reasons he needs to have this hidden from him that Genkai died? I don't know. I just felt like this episode really could have been packed into maybe half an episode. So, yeah.
I think about, yeah, you're right. They did spend all that time on the girls not getting in. Now, sure, we got an explanation for it, but but we didn't need to have that whole thing. We could have just gone past it, and Botan could have just said, well, I got tickets from Koenma, and then they just go in and that's it. They didn't. Basically, it's one of those things where they create a problem just to then solve it. And actually, I am suddenly very curious. Was that in the manga? I know there have been like some scenes they added, like a lot of, a bunch of the goofy stuff with Koenma and Ogre when they're watching it.
Yeah.
I think a bunch of that stuff was anime original, which I'm fine with because it was funny. But let me just check quick to see what was let's see. Let me just see what chapters these were in, because all of a sudden I'm curious about this. All right, the anime wikis usually tell you what chapter something corresponds to. All right, chapters 93 and 94, it tells me. Okay, let's see. Okay, not in 93. I'm just skipping through it very quickly.
Yeah.
On it's in what they call the Shonen Jump Vault, viz.com/Shonen Jump, if anyone wants to read it online. Let's see. Yeah, I think that whole thing with the girls coming in was basically filler.
What about the old man in the sea?
That one I'd have to actually check on to that. Let's see what episode was that.
The old man. Oh man.
Well, hang on. It's an easy way to let's see. It was we had in episode 48. See, I because we put that as the title for the episode of our podcast, so I just looked at what episode we discussed there. Okay, so that's chapter 48. Sorry, episode 48. That is chapters 83 and 84. So let's just pull this up quick. Let's see. Okay. No, it's not in 83, so it's 84. I'm just skimming these really quick. Let me see. Okay. Oh, yeah, it looked to me like that was that part where she was actually talking to the audience. Yes, it looks like that was anime original.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think the anime actually did add a number of scenes and stuff like that. I think, stuff like that, or even like the girls trying to get in, this is much more effective padding or filler than what we see in One Piece. Because it's actually entertaining and you don't mind it as much. You just find, oh, that was anime original? Okay.
Yeah.
Like that's what I would actually say. That's why I don't want to really call it filler exactly. Because that it's not necessarily done to just fill up time. It felt more like, oh yeah, this was just anime original content, just fun stuff that they added into it. So yeah, that's interesting. I remember actually I listened to some people who they read through the manga and they were kind of talking about it, and one of them mentioned that they thought that the anime was much better than the original manga because of some of the things they adjusted. So yeah, that might be a case of that. All right. Well, we may not have necessarily had that much to discuss in this episode, but we're sure spending a lot of time on it. Okay. So, let's see. Anything else I wanted to say for Yu Yu Hakusho? I did like the part where... No. I was just going to say I was just going to say, I did like the part where Hiei's arm is all wrecked, and Kubar says, why is your arm like that? And Hiei said, well, it didn't obey me when I gave it a specific command, so I decided it had to be punished. Kubar just thinks, okay, yeah. He's weird.
That was funny, yeah. That was a good moment.
Yeah. Okay, so we move on then to continuing our, what I guess we're now calling May Madness, of the tournament of just trying to narrow down the series. So for our first match, we have, I'm not going to do the whole loud versus thing I did last time, but we've got, once again, these C's are just according to what their rating on my anime list at the time I set this up. So we have number 4, which is Mono, versus number 13, which is Teogonia. I think that's how it's pronounced, Teogonia. I hope it is. So to just discuss these in these series very briefly, Mono is basically, well, it's a cute girls doing cute things anime where that cute thing is photography. All right. Teogonia is, I think it's supposed to be an isekai. It's not clear, but yeah, or something. Basically, or maybe I'll get into that later. It's basically a fantasy world series where the main character, if I remember correctly, he had dreams about being able to create fire, and he wanted to make fire to attack monsters with, because they're all in these wars. And then he manages, and it turns out, yay, he manages to get it done somehow. And that was basically the episode there. Okay, those were my brief descriptions of these two series.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep these nice and brief and simple because 50% of these we are never going to watch again for this podcast, probably. So,
yeah.
All right. So I guess we'll try to give we'll together try to say which one we at least initially think we liked more. And this time, let's actually see if we can actually line it up and say it simultaneously.
Yeah.
All right. So is it going to be Mono or Teogonia? I'll just count to 3, and after 3, we'll say it at the same time. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Mono.
Teogonia.
Oh, we got a difference there. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it wasn't like Teogonia was perfect or anything, but it, I thought that there was actually, some like potential to it. Like I came away from that episode thinking, okay, I'd like to see the next one. Whereas like Mono, I was bored halfway through the first episode. I'm like, okay, this is like K-On, but like without the music. And it's it felt a lot to me like a version of Hyoka, and I'm like, I just stopped watching Hyoka, and now I got it right back again. Uh, Teogonia had its problems, most specifically the whole rehash of the whole isekai thing, but it did at least entertain me more with the whole thing of trying to control the magic and stuff. I know that's, not anything groundbreaking, but it was at least somewhat more interesting than Mono was. So that's my reasoning.
Well, for me, what happened when I watched Mono first, and about halfway through the episode, I was thinking, this is so boring. I haven't seen Teogonia yet, but I have almost tempted to just give it to that because I'm so bored. The second half of the episode was more interesting and brought me around more to the series. And I was kind of thinking with it, well, maybe it's an interesting maybe like it could be more interesting in the second part. For some reason, I was kind of thinking a bit of Lucky Star, and I was thinking, I like that series, but the first episode was kind of meh, and this episode maybe got a little more interesting later. So whereas Teogonia, then I watched Teogonia, and I was thinking, well, this was more interesting than the first half, but I think I liked it less than the second half of Mono.
Yeah.
So when putting them together, I usually, when I have this sort of thing happen, like I usually just would default. I would choose a series that I had the part that I thought. I choose the series with the higher high because I figured that gives it more potential in the next episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw them in the opposite order. So,
okay.
I don't know why I viewed them the order I did. I originally told myself, okay, I'm gonna watch these in a certain order. That way, everything's the same. But as it turns out, I haven't watched any of these in any specific order. It's been all over the place. So I need to start doing that because that might make a difference. But like Teogonia, I was like, okay, it's not great, but it has potential. And then whenever Mono started up, like halfway through the episode, I checked out, and I'm like, I don't know. So that's kind of where I went with that. Like I did think Mono was going to advance after seeing Teogonia, and then after seeing Mono, I'm like, not really. So we'll see.
So
Yeah.
which one to choose? You know what? How about we put this to the side and talk about the other two. Maybe we'll disagree on that, and we'll negotiate as to which one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be a Picard. Actually, I already thought of that. I was already thinking like, well, if there's one that you like more and one I like more, we can split the difference. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe let's see which. I guess it also might depend how strongly we might feel, because in this
Yeah.
one I could kind of go with either one, even if my preferences monos. But all right, so we'll get to the other ones. Our seeds and matches this time is number 5, Mobile Suit Gundam G-Quox. And yes, I actually know that's how it's pronounced. They said it in the episode. Everyone was like saying, "Oh, it's G-Quax." No, it's G-Quox. They say G-Quox in the episode. I listened to both English and the Japanese to be sure. That's how they say it. Anyway, so where was I? Okay, that was number 5. And number 12, the Gorilla God's Go-To Girl. So, Mobile Suit Gundam, G-Quox. I almost started to say Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, I think. That's how I feel I've said the most. That's what I've said the most after starting with Mobile Suit Gundam. So, one thing to mention. So the first 3 episodes, I think were some sort of. There was a movie that came out before this. It kind of was the 3 episodes, but they kind of rearranged the order in the actual episodes. So technically backstory stuff that occurred earlier first in the film we haven't gotten to. I think this might have been just a goal to get you to in medias res and then getting into the actual backstory stuff in the next episode. The reason I specify all this is because because there's a lot of this stuff in this episode I didn't really understand, but so I'm going to apologize if I mess things up in this. Okay, so basically, does it go? Which is, how do I explain it? Okay, so there's this girl who runs into this other girl, and the second girl, I don't even know if they say their names in this episode, actually.
Yeah.
But has this sort of like Gundam controlling thing, and then there ends up being this Gundam fight between these two people, and one of them isn't able to control it right, and well, what do you know, one of the main characters is actually able to do it for, I don't know, plot reasons, I guess. Maybe that'll be explained. And then she's able to use it and fight off the other Gundam, and that's basically the episode. It made more sense when I watched it. It's harder to explain it because they throw out a bunch of vocabulary. I'm like, is this something I'm supposed to know, or is this just something that will be explained later? All right, so then we get to the Gorilla God's Go-To Girl. We've episode 1 again. So this takes place in some alternate world where everyone gets these special sort of, I think, blessing in the ceremony from some animal, and our main character gets the blessing of the Gorilla God, which makes her super strong. And after that's discovered, she ends up being kind of drafted into the Knights because she's so strong, and plans to try to fail the entrance test, but is actually so strong she ends up kind of doing it really well by accident. Yeah, that's my explanation for it.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, let's see if we disagree on this one also. So we've got we'll just say G-Quox or Gorilla.
Okay.
We'll start with G. All right, let's see if we can time it. 1, 2, 3. G-Quox.
Gorilla.
Oh, another disagreement. Hi. I guess I'll go on this one. So
yeah.
I actually did get some good laughs out of the Gorilla God's Go-To Girl. I did laugh at this episode, and it was entertaining to me. That said, for as much as the plot seemed just kind of simple, the animation was really basic, whereas as much as I was confused by G-Quox in some ways, I kind of got the feeling, yeah, we're not supposed to completely understand everything. We just got, okay, it's these characters and they're in this situation and this stuff happens, and we'll probably get more information about it in the next episode. Basically, my I just thought, well, I'm more interested in watching the second episode of G-Quox and Gorilla. I can't really explain it any better than that. It's just I'm more interested in it, which is how that happened.
Yeah, Gundam for me is like a foreign language. So anytime I watch an episode of Gundam, I feel like I'm watching something that's completely foreign language, and nothing makes sense to me. It's like, okay, we got to go in robots. Okay, that's nice. Why do we have to go in robots again? And yeah, so uh watching this Gundam episode, I'm like, okay, this brings back memories of Gundam Unicorn, where, where everyone had this irrational. At least Gundam Unicorn had like a uh, goal, like they had to get that certain document or whatever it was, so they could prevent a war. Like this just felt like, okay, random people are getting into Gundam suits, and we don't know why they are, but they are, and trust us on this one. So the gorilla episode was my favorite of the week because I just like the humor to it. It felt a little bit like Mashle to me, and I guess since I kind of like Mashle, I kind of like this too. So it yeah, it was humorous, and while it may be kind of, bland, it at least uh was entertaining. Whereas like Gotham, I was just like, I don't know. So yeah, that's what I think.
Okay. So under the circumstances, I guess it might make the most sense to uh, let my pick win one of them and yours pick win the other. Is
Yeah,
that okay with
yeah,
you? All right.
yeah, that makes sense.
Which one would you rather win?
Gorilla, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, you said it was your favorite, so that makes sense. All right. So that is how we are going to go with that. We are going to have the Gorilla Gods go to Girl advance into the next round, whereas on the other hand, Mono will defeat Teogonia to going to the next round. And we'll see how that turns out. We'll see if Mono gets more interesting in the second episode, or if we'll just think, wow, maybe we should have just gone with Teogonia.
Yeah, we'll see. Ultimately, only really one of these four actually wins. So,
Yeah. So,
so
yeah.
and
Well,
even
okay.
then, yeah, even then after that, it's it's kind of up in the air. But
Mhm.
yeah,
All right. Yeah. Okay. So we've managed to solve that. So Mono and Gorilla Gods go to Girl, advancing to the next. Well, that worked out pretty well here. So for next week, we have more matchups to go. We've got ranked number 2, Anne Shirley versus ranked 15, the Dinner Table Detective. We've got seeded 7, Witch Watch versus seeded 10, the Shiunji Family Children. So we'll watch those, get back to it, and maybe we'll be in better agreement next week. I I do think it's a little funny because you and I we put together before we had watched any of this stuff. We just put together some prediction thing of our bracket. So far, our predictions were correct. Even though I actually ended up suggesting G-Quox, my prediction was that the Girl Guys Go To Girl would beat it. So we are now still, due to this our intense negotiations, we have both predicted all these correctly so far. We'll see if that continues next week.
Yeah, I was like, I was like when it came to picking Mono or Teogonia, it was just when I was predicting it. I mean, when I was predicting it, I was just like, I have no idea what either of these things could possibly be. So I'm just picking the higher seed. So that and that was just kind of random. This one though, the I I just have bad memories of Gundam, so I'm like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to predict Gundam to win. It might win, but there's no way I'm going to uh put my money down on Gundam because yeah, I don't think I would be able to enjoy a Gundam series. I mean, I guess like there was some really popular ones way back in the day. But I feel like those that time has passed for me, and I'm a little too cynical now that I'd be able to even enjoy those older ones. So, yeah, uh, I'm just not a Gundam guy. And that's all there is to it.
I think yeah, well, I honestly like this one, at least the first episode, more from what I remember the first episodes of Unicorn and Iron Blooded Orphans. It at least got me a little more interested. But I don't think it even really got it because apparently what the series is going to be about is like basically doing sort of underground Gundam fights. Remember in Full Metal Panic season 3 that part where um where he went in and he was like he was going, I can't remember the names of what they call their robots, their giant robots, but you know when they fight against each other in like sort of an arena. I was thinking apparently it's going to be something kind of like that, which sounds interesting.
Oh,
But
you mean the Invisible Victory season?
yes, Invisible Victory,
Where
right?
yeah, that would have been 4, but yeah, I remember that now. And then that's whenever that girl gets suddenly killed out of nowhere, and then it
Yeah,
was that season was so depressing. Oh, that was like the uh Disney Star Wars version of Full Metal Panic, where it's like we got to make this all dark and depressing and gloomy, and uh
I still
even
need to
the yeah
I still need to go back and read those last 3 light novel volumes to see so I can actually see how it concludes.
yeah I hope they someday come up with a 5th, but I wouldn't bet on it. So
I mean, there was
yeah
such a long gap before Invisible Victory. How long was it again? What was it? Something like 11 years? I know it was a
yeah it
really
was
long time. Let's see. So, second raid was 2005 and Invisible Victory was 2018. 13 years.
wow.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually so definitely quite a bit of a while there. So it has not been 13 years since Invisible Victory. It has only been 7 years. So we still got 6 years to go, I guess.
Yep.
All right. One thing final thing to mention. I did find it interesting that G-Quox, the writers of this were Hideaki Anno, creator of
Hmm.
Evangelion, and Yoji
Hmm.
Enokito, a name that's probably less familiar, but people will probably recognize a series he wrote, which was Fooly Cooly, the original. He had nothing to do with the sequels, which is an interesting combination.
Yeah. Yeah, because this didn't turn out anything like either of the. So yeah,
Yeah. I think, yeah, I'd say maybe it could have done it if they had introduced some stuff a little earlier. But unfortunately for this tournament, you get one episode to make your case against another episode. So dropped out of there. All right, so we've gotten that. I suppose we can now list our favorite Toonami and favorite non-Toonami shows.
Yeah,
we're not even going to have one for
no,
Toonami. There's one show.
I'm having a hard time with the Toonami one. I think I might give it to One Piece, but no, I'm gonna have to give it to Lazarus because obviously Lazarus was the only one, and I need something to fill in that spot on my spreadsheet. So I have to officially pick Lazarus, so that way my spreadsheet stays the way it should be. The gorilla is where I'm going to go with for my best non-Toonami, and my best girl of the week will be Sophia from that gorilla. So there you have it.
Okay. Well, for me, my favorite, least favorite, mid-favorite series on Toonami was Lazarus. It's also the median, mode, and mean, as they say in terms of the averages. The mean, median, and mode. I don't.
Yep.
For the non-Toonami series, it was actually a little tricky to decide between the stuff for the May Madness, so I'm not even going to try. I'll just say Yu Yu Hakusho. All right. So, we've gotten through all of that. I guess if there's other things we want to talk about, we can. I just wanted to mention, because you actually mentioned it earlier in this episode. We dropped Hyoka a few weeks ago because we kind of were losing interest in it, and also it worked well with our schedule to sort of drop it off. But I did want to see just how the current mystery ended, so I did watch the next two episodes, which I actually did think were a big improvement over the previous ones. Probably not enough to make me keep watching, but it was definitely a big improvement. There's a lot more funny stuff, more interesting things. It gave an explanation for, remember how I kept complaining, look, they have this person and she wrote the film and they were trying to figure out who she intended as the culprit, but she's sick. She can't be so sick, you can't just ask her. We got an explanation for that. I'm so happy. It still left me with the question, why didn't the characters ask about this before? But we got an explanation and it actually fit into it. It actually was a surprisingly satisfying explanation for how everything worked out. I don't know. Do you want me to tell you how it finished?
Go ahead. I don't care. Yeah.
Okay. All right, any listeners, I'm about to spoil actually what episode numbers were these. Episodes 10 and 11. Okay. So here's what happened. We find out. So first what was his name? Again, Hotaro. I kept thinking, what was his name? It's not Hachiman. That's from a different series. Just the same voice actor and same kind of character.
Yeah,
but,
same character.
So he basically goes through all this stuff, and ultimately what he thinks happened is that, okay, the murderer was the cameraman. They were actually a character, and everyone's like, yep, that seems to make sense. So they finished the film with that as the twist, and everyone thinks it's a pretty good film. But then people point out, yeah, but what about this thing or that thing? Stuff that he kind of overlooked that indicated that wasn't what it was supposed to be. So he's like, oh, dang, maybe that's right. What was happening? So the explanation we get, to try to go through a bunch of things quick, is that the person who wrote it did get sick, yes. But what happened, but the reason she didn't tell anyone was because we find out that this was originally not supposed to actually have the person die in it. They were just supposed to be, I think, like injured or knocked out or something. The script didn't call for them to die explicitly, but they filmed that because she wasn't there at the time. And that kind of screwed up all the stuff so that what she planned wouldn't work, but she was also like a really meek person and didn't want to like object to any of the things. So her friend basically just wanting an ending, just went to the cast and said, "Hey, this is the situation. I need you to figure out what her plan was, not to actually figure out what her plan was, but just to come up with an ending for the movie." So that was basically all of it. And yes, we do get Hotaro hypothesize on what he thinks the original plan would have been. And yeah, I was like, okay, that's actually kind of clever, because it means there was a mystery behind the mystery, and that made things more interesting, and they explained the stuff. And so yeah, and I just thought on the whole the episodes were definitely more interesting than the previous ones, where the recurring problem I had with the series, I realized what it was. It's the same issue I had. Maybe I can't remember if I said this when we dropped it, but it reminds me of like today's Menu for the Emiya family, where we have these kind of fun interactions between characters. It's just like funny to see some of the stuff that happens. And then just midway through the episode, it just has to stop the plot for like 5 minutes so Shiro can ramble on about how to cook something.
Yeah.
And and by the way, since those episodes were like 12 minutes each, that's like half the plot. Which is what happens here. We have like these sort of funny little interactions with characters, and then we just got to stop for half the episode to go through all the mystery stuff. And I think these last 2 episodes did a better job with that. I don't know if I'll continue with it, but I do think those the 2 episodes after the point where we dropped them were an improvement. So I just wanted to share all of that. Although I still have no idea why at the end of episodes it started saying, "Why didn't she ask EBA?" Because I was thinking, oh, it relates to this this mystery thing. But then it's like, no, it's not this mystery, because it's still doing it. So I don't know. Like I said, maybe I'll check out more. Maybe I won't. For now, I'm going to be a bit busy. But I just wanted to share that. And for anyone who's wondering what the actual, if you were wondering what the actual conclusion to that plot was. Okay.
Yeah.
Whew. All right. Anything you wanted to share?
No, I'm still watching Bleach. I've made it to episode 135. So this New Year's resolution has lasted much longer than even I would have expected. I was like, "There's no way I'm gonna keep this thing going," but I am going, and we reached the part of the early Rancor arc where it's all filler episodes. So you have the Yumichika Iron Chef episode, which it's just so bad that it's not even so bad it's good. It's just so bad. And the last one, I don't even know if I was supposed to find it funny or not, but it was hilarious. Was this episode where Rangiku and Kon, or some reason, are just hanging outside, and they suddenly see this girl drop her plushie into the water, and then she falls in. So Rangiku, instead of Rangiku going and like jumping in and saving her, she pulls the soul candy out of Kon and throws it, and somehow manages to get it right in the plushie that the girl had dropped. And then that thing becomes Kon, and then Kon is able to save her. And then, but she wakes up and she doesn't realize what happened. So, so she's trying to blow dry Kon and this new Kon, the new body of Kon, and suddenly he jumps, and then she's like, "Oh, I've been wishing for my plushie to be alive for all this time, and it's finally happened." So she's like, okay with it. And then Cohen's like, "Okay, where's your dad? Where's your mom?" And it's like she's like this 8-year-old girl who's living by herself somehow, and then all this bizarre backstory then comes up, and then they eventually a holo comes. The holo is like her former dog, which is what she named her plushie after, but I don't remember what the plushie's name was. And yeah, and Rengiku comes and saves her in the end, but this could have been solved a lot more easily had Rengiku just like from the very start just jumped in to save her, and then everything would have we wouldn't have needed all this stuff. Like she just leaves Kon with this girl for like a whole day, and uh yeah, it was. I don't know if it was supposed to be funny or if it was supposed to be serious. Like if I was like if it was unintentional humor, but for some reason it made me laugh a lot. So I guess it kind of accomplished its goal, even though it was probably not a very good episode. It's one of the more memorable ones. It also had the I also recently watched the soccer episode where, well, at least the first soccer episode, because I think there's a second soccer episode. This one where Karine gets Toshiro to join her soccer team, and he helps them win. Then the very next episode, it's like the exact same plot, just with different characters, and Toshiro again gets roped into winning for the Karakura high school team. It's just this time it's that Keigo's sister who's roped everyone into it. So yeah, there really were like two episodes with like the exact same plot back to back. And anyway, this filler, it's all filler, but it's at least entertaining, I have to say. It's not horrible. It is funny. And besides the actual Bleach stuff that I've been watching, the canon stuff have been so dull and depressing with those stupid visors who I absolutely hate those visor characters. Like they there's like nothing good about them. And so at least we got a break from them. So I'll take the filler, even if it is just filler.
You know, the cake episode 134. I remember that mostly because, and I've tried to find it again. It might not be available anymore. Someone made this kind of funny AMV with it for the song, like this one song from like the show Lazy Town, like Cooking by the Book. You know, it's like it's a piece of cake to bake a pretty cake if the way is hazy or some. I can't remember the whole thing. I only remember that because I was the lyrics, and it's annoying because I cannot find that video. I search online. I found another AMV that used that episode of Bleach to that song, but it was a different one. It had like subtitles on it because I guess a person was using it with a sub version. I mean subtitles from the original dialogue, and it was not this one. The one I saw specifically, it had like the part where it actually was like mixing more, like when you were hearing the lyrics were actually matching more when the characters on screen were talking. So you get to see Hanataro, like he's like his mouth moving when it's like going like I pile on the candy. It's such a pretty sight. It's just it's pretty. It was pretty funny, and I cannot find it. Like I said, I found another video that used stuff from that episode and that song, but not this original one. It might not be. Maybe it was taken down or something. I don't know. But that just made me like that one episode a lot more, even though the episode itself was really boring.
Yeah.
It's the one, in case people are wondering, where this guy dies and he wants to make this cake for his mother before he passes on. So basically, some of the Soul Reapers like have to try to make the cake under his direction, except they're not actually good at cooking. So he's trying to get them to prove that was it. It sounds in concept really funny, but its execution is not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess one other thing about Bleach, I did on a whim. I just decided, you know what? Let's watch the first I wanted to watch the first episode again because I was just kind of curious to go back to it, and it was just kind of interesting to look at it again, and because I was just kind of thinking, Bleach premiere now. If you just watch anime, you wouldn't really know about this necessarily. But so Bleach, like a whole lot of really popular series, ran in this magazine called Weekly Shonen Jump. Now, Weekly Shonen Jump, I mean, so many of the big stuff is there. Stuff we've watched from Weekly Shonen Jump: One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Dragon Ball, World Trigger, Dr. Stone, My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer. I started to say Jujutsu Kaisen, but then I realized we never actually watched that for the podcast, and some other stuff. The reason and Witch Watch, which we're going to be watching. So the reason I mentioned all of that was what Weekly Shonen Jump is also known for is they cancel manga really quickly if it's not popular enough. They've eased a little on it, but still there's a lot of series that just make it to like maybe around 19 chapters and then get canceled. So I was like, let's watch the beginning of Bleach. What made Bleach manage to work when all these other things were canceled and no one ever heard of them? And if you're an anime watcher, you never heard of any of these series because of the fact they just got canceled and never got anime. And watching it, I was thinking, a lot of the general plot beats here are what you see in so many of these sort of new manga series. Okay, there's a character and they got maybe some special powers and they meet this other person and and that person's like, oh yeah, by the way, there's all these evil monsters and stuff that we have to fight. And by the way, here's some of my powers so you can fight them. And he's like, okay, and I'm doing that. And I think it was mostly just that there's just a bit better comedy, some funny interactions between Rukia and Ichigo. The part where she's explaining stuff with drawings and Ichigo's reaction is just, why are your drawings so terrible? Was just stuff like that. It's a minor thing, but it's what I think helped put Bleach at the very start, sort of ahead of those other sorts of series. And that was just my observation. Basically, it didn't really do. I guess I say it didn't really do anything that different. It just did it better than so many of those rapidly canceled series. Okay. Yep, I don't have anything else to be saying on that. So yep, I guess that's it. Is there anything else to say before we head off?
Nope, not really.
Okay. So that would be it then. Wow, we really did end up talking quite a while with so little to talk about. I think maybe when we spend a bunch more time on the Toonami series, it just makes us go through the later stuff more quickly, to compensate.
Yeah.
So that's what we've got with all of that. And, well, that'll be it. Next week, we'll be back here for Toonami, and we will have another episode of Lazarus. We'll have Bleach. We'll have Blue Exorcist. We'll have One Piece. Now I'm actually wishing maybe One Piece did have just one instead of 2 episodes, because, 4 episodes, on Toonami, that's fine. But then when you go into 5, it starts getting a little late. But that's what we've got there, and we'll see how that all goes. And we will also be checking out our other new series, episode 1 of all those series we listed, and we'll see how that goes. Without further ado, though, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast, Toonami Therapy. I'm Michael.
Yeah, hello, I'm Tom.
And It's May 22nd of 2025, and we're here to be talking about more anime, some of which is on Toonami, and some of which is actually new on Toonami. Well, no, Blue Exorcist Season 2 still counts as new. They never aired it before.
Yep.
All right. But as usual, what we do is we have to go in the order that they aired for the Toonami series. So I guess we can just get into that. So we've got Lazarus episode 7. All right. So basically they I can never remember everything exact. Oh, right. They got from the computer thing, they found some coordinates in these different places. So they all decide to go there and look for him, and I guess scuba dive along the way for some kind of forced fan service. So they look around, and what do you know? They don't seem to find anything outside of there. So I guess looking around the water was kind of pointless outside of, well, I guess it did give us some nice looking scenery. So there was that. But the big thing is that they find out that in all these places, the residents have some sort of thing that makes it so they don't really feel pain. And they think, oh, maybe this was exactly what caused him to make the painkiller medication stuff. And yeah, so I guess they're kind of closer to finding him. Maybe they do find out, I think, that what was it, like the person who was in charge of the Lazarus thing used to work for Skinner, so I guess there was plot development there, I guess. Oh, and then what's her name? I can't remember her name, but the main female of the Lazarus team that isn't the computer one, yeah, she meets someone, and that was our episode essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt like we didn't get any closer to this episode than we have been, though maybe they're setting up something, so I'm hoping that's the case. I mean, we had a whole lot of awkward, slow scenes in this episode, where there was like no one talking, no dialogue, just people doing things, and it was just a really weird episode, so can't say I liked it all that much.
Yes, we did have we did get, I guess, some nice scenery, which is apparently the thing. Oh wow, this looks great. Wow, it's really bad that we're destroying it. And I'm like, okay, I guess you're putting in an environmental message here. Oh yeah, and it turns out Skinner was totally right about ice caps melting or something from heat and such. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't know. Just the sort of environmentalist stuff they're putting in here just feels kind of forced, I guess.
Yeah.
Is the
Yeah.
issue. It's like
Yeah.
I mean, I think of Captain Planet, which was way more in your face, but at the same time, but no, here's the thing: Captain Planet was way more in your face, but at the same time, it felt more natural in that series.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Captain Planet had us all worrying about the ozone hole, which was the thing of the late 80s, early 90s that was going to kill us all, was the ozone hole, and that never materialized. So,
Well, I
so you
think
can
that
understand why I'm skeptical whenever we have the same type of thing 30 years later, and it's like, it's like, okay, well, the last time you guys said that something was going to kill us, nothing ever happened. So I don't know. Though I have to admit that I do really like a certain anime with global warming as the main plot line. So I can't say that's the reason why I don't like this. The reason I don't like it is just the characters aren't that interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the part of the reason you don't hear about the ozone hole anymore is I thought they did some stuff to sort of fix it, but I'm not sure about that. I do know it's not that much. But I don't know. Like I said, Captain Planet all mostly just kind of felt more natural, maybe because it was just so big a part of the series. But yeah, that was I wonder how many meme. And then there's all the meme stuff about, oh wow, Heart was a really lame power. Even though,
Yeah, wasn't there that one episode where it was just like the guy kept going heart, 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 and somehow that would like lead them the right way. It was really bizarre.
I can't remember. I just remember people make jokes about the fact that when that apparently some villain says, you know, my ring can't affect you because you have no heart. Or some heart like that. Anyway, yeah, that show had a pretty catchy theme song though.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now that we've gotten that tangent out, I would say this episode it was okay. I mean, I keep mentioning, wow, some stuff in it looked nice, and I'm just like that's the thing. This series is constantly looking good, but just usually not doing so much in terms of plot. So I think it was just okay again. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it was even okay. I thought it was boring, so I wasn't a fan of this episode at all. But
I was kind of bored when I watched it, but I feel that now, like looking back, I'm like, yeah, there was some kind of some okay stuff in there. But I do agree that there was. I'm not going to redo the whole spiel I think we had last episode. In the fact that because they set this super crazy important deadline, it makes every episode with me thinking, come on, why aren't you getting farther with this? Whereas if they hadn't made it such an immediate threat, that would have been less of an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so done with that. Now we'll move on to the Toonami premiere of Bleach, the 1,000-Year Blood War. Episode 1. Yes, we're just going to start counting from episode 1, even though I think it's overall episode 367. So, actually, do you want to say what happens in the Bleach episode?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so couple random Soul Reapers are in Karakura Town, and they face some trouble, and Ichigo comes out to save them. And then we have some Ichigo and his pals all saving them and hanging around his house. And then as this is happening, suddenly over at the Soul Society, there's a big attack, and the most useless of all the lieutenants gets killed. And there's a big problem over there in the Soul Society because of this, because they're being attacked. And some people come from Waco Mundo, I'm pretty sure. And that's where the episode ends.
Yep, pretty much. It's it's the start of the arc, and there's honestly not that much to say about it because I guess stuff happened. You had what's his name? Was it Sasakibe? Was that his name?
Yeah.
The guy who was the lieutenant of Yamamoto, who we're going to be, I think we end up getting told is actually really strong, which is why Ichigo just in the Soul Society at the end of the Soul Society arc just beat him and all the other lieutenants by himself, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so we've got that. There's definitely an emphasis on, hey, I know it's been a long time, so here's the characters. So, when you have Orihime and Chad and Uryu and Ichigo show up, it does this big thing where it puts their name on screen to remind you. So yeah, that was kind of cool. Although people don't get your hopes up that you'll start to see Orihime and Chad actually become plot relevant because this makes it seem like, oh man, they're back. But from everything I've heard, they're not actually going to do that much in this arc. But it might change later on. But we've still got the final part left. But that was the part there, and it really did always just make me think, wow. Haven't those two kind of become useless ever since the Soul Society arc started?
Yeah. Well, Orihime had a big role in the Waco Mundo arc, so she never
True.
really did anything.
Yeah,
she didn't
that's
really
what.
do anything. She just
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like she was around and was plot important, but she wasn't really useful to them. Was the thing, and that's kind of something. I like the Soul Society. The arc is always considered basically the best part of Bleach, and it was good. But at the same time, you also have to look back and say, yeah, that was the arc where basically most of the characters that were introduced up until that point kind of start becoming irrelevant. It's basically all about Ichigo and the people in the court squads.
yeah, like Chad, he gets taken out by Sunsui, and Uryu gets taken out by Mayuri, and
At least Uryu beats Mayuri, kind of,
sort of, but then he gets poisoned.
Yeah.
So, and then Orihime just kind of joins up with Yachiru and Squad 11. They just kind of have fun together.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Gonju, who's even more useless. He just kind of tags along to give commentary to Ichigo's battles. And then he gets beat really bad, I think, to Byakuya. And yeah. So, and right now I am in the Rancor arc, at least the early version of it, where Orihime just got captured, which I'll have to talk more about later. But
okay.
Yeah. This first episode I thought did a pretty good job at reintroducing people and kind of making out that there's some considerable danger to the Soul Society, although the person they killed off is like probably the least important person in all of the Soul Societies, so it like doesn't really hammer anything home to us. It's like kind of like, okay, well, that guy, we didn't care about him anyway, so it kind of tricks you into thinking, okay, this isn't going to be all that big of a threat whenever it actually is. So
Yes, I suppose we'll have a bit more to say. I think it's the second episode where we actually start to get some more stuff revealed. This one was just kind of set up. Plot-wise, technically, all that happens here is, we find that out. We find out that the guy that most people probably couldn't even name has died. We find out the only reason I remember his name is because it was so goofy to say this guy's dead that I just remembered his name because it was I had no idea who it was before, and that just made me remember it now for kind of the silliness of it. And then some random hollow guy attacks Ichigo but loses.
Yeah.
All right. So, yep, that was Bleach. Despite my criticisms, it was more, as an episode itself, it's fine. It's decent. It starts things out, gets you reoriented with things, sets up new threat despite the jokes being made. And yeah, I guess that's it for that. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention. Last last week I talked a little bit about how there was this one Bleach AMV thing that I didn't seem to be online and couldn't find it. I found it. It is still up on YouTube. It's just called Bleach Cake. If you search for Bleach Cake, you should find it. You might have to scroll through a few things, but it right now, like its preview thing, it has this thing of Yumi Chika on it, and it says Bleach Cake like right on there. The funny thing is there is another AMV. It uses this exact same song that's on with scenes from the same Bleach episode.
Yeah,
because
I found that out in the past too. I was looking for one classic AMV that I had seen way back in 2008, and then like I found one that like used the same song and the same anime, but I couldn't tell if it was the same video. So yeah.
So that's it. It's a song from Lazy Town about cooking, and they just took the stuff from the episode because it was that one where Yumichika has to make this cake and stuff, and it's actually a pretty boring episode, but the AMV actually kind of makes it worth it. So yeah,
pretty boring. It was a very boring episode. That I remember that one. I remember that one because I was like, Iron Chef Yumichika is what I called it the first time around. And like that was the point where I'm like, okay, Bleach is really scratching the bottom of the barrel. And it wasn't as bad this time around, but it was still pretty bad.
It was. I mean, Iron Chef Yumichika, that's better. That's more creative than like what I would have named it. I would have just called it "The Cake Is a Lie" because I'm lazy like that.
Yeah, this time around I named it Food Wars.
Yep, that's a good one. That's another good one. You are so much better at coming up with titles for things than me. So, anyway, yeah, that's it. Once again, if anyone was curious about this AMV, it's just called Bleach Cake, and yeah, so that's the one about that one. Like I said, it's funny because there are literally two things using clips from the same episode with the same song that I found on YouTube. All right. So if you're seeing one that's got subtitles on the screen, then you're not looking at the one I'm talking about. Okay, right. The one I mentioned seeing. All right, so moving on to Blue Exorcist episode 26. It's a little funny because at the start of Toonami, if you were watching it on TV, Tom literally mentions, the last 8 episodes of Blue Exorcist were anime exclusive. He like just straight up tells you don't need to worry about them.
Yeah, he's like, go. What you need to remember is from before episode 16 or so, or something like that.
Yes. It's the funny thing is they do it at the start of Toonami. They didn't put it right. They didn't say it before Blue Exorcist itself to explain things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, in regards to this, starting after I think episode 17, Rin gets put on a mission along with some of the others to try to get the left eye of the impure king, and that was what's called. Yeah, and they're not able to get it back. Oh, no, wait. First they try to get it, and then they don't get it back. And then they decide, okay, we'll send more people out there to try to investigate it, which is the other characters in their other classmates who this time, because once again, the last 8 episodes have been deleted, are actually still suspicious about Rin being the whole son of Satan thing, even though he revealed it when saving their lives. So I don't think it really necessarily makes that much sense, but they're suspicious still, I guess. And So I guess he's going to have to win them over again, which he did, but that was filler. So now he's doing it again. It's it's
really
very
awkward.
weird. Yeah, it's very weird to just be jumping in and saying, "Yeah, we just are ignoring that stuff." So yeah, that was the episode more or less.
Yeah, I think this whole episode was just so thrown off by everyone not trusting him again that it just kind of hurt the episode because I'm thinking like, why are these guys not trusting him again? It's like, oh yeah, that's right, none of that stuff ever happened. But it's just so weird to try to reconcile uh, those characters from the filler arc to this arc. So, um, yeah, I didn't think it was all that interesting of an episode, too. Um, but yeah, it's just this is just kind of a reintroduction of the characters. So I'm sure it'll get better than this. I hope.
Yeah, I do think I honestly do wonder if maybe it would have just been better. Yeah, just skip the filler episode. Just go straight to this because that would just to avoid getting people more confused about these sorts of things. But yeah, it's a continuation of it, and yeah, nothing else to really say about that. It is a little weird that inside there's no the series itself does not acknowledge the fact that the previous 8 episodes didn't happen. I mean, like, story wise it does, but it doesn't say at the start, hey, the last 8 episodes didn't happen, or you don't have like, Reen wake up from a dream and say, wow, that was a weird dream, and or anything. They just like again just move on as if those didn't happen. It's very weird the way they do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, moving past that, on to One Piece episodes 725 to 726. Okay, let's see. Remembering what happened in One Piece is always one of the hardest parts because it's the one that airs. It airs later, so I'm more. Oh yeah, I was actually really tired when we were watching this one. I remember I was determined I'm going to stay up and watch this, but I was so tired because I accidentally took my sort of sleeping medication earlier than I should have. So I was feeling really tired. So I was just to try to stay awake during the commercials. I was like just taking naps so that I could actually watch and not fall asleep. So, okay. So anyway, Luffy's still fighting Doflamingo. Doflamingo is mentioning, haha, my bird cage is continuing to close in and it will make all the people die soon because it's getting closer and closer and then there won't be room and all that stuff. Everyone's trying to get away from it. Is running from the birdcage going to be the new running from poison gas? And the big thing is that Luffy does say, all right, I'm going to try gear. I can't remember what number they're up to at this point, but it's his new power-up transformation, which looks kind of goofy, but it is really strong, and he starts getting the upper hand.
Yeah, it's something about the fourth something.
Gear 4 then, or gear 4th.
Yeah, the fourth gear, and I'm like, it's like all he needs to get is the 5th gear, and then he'll be okay. So, yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
these episodes were typical One Piece of late. It felt like hardly anything happened, which, like, there actually were some things that were happening. and now this episode kind of slowed everything down again, and so Law though survived, unfortunately. So unfortunately, because I don't like him, and because the main reason I don't like him is that like he should have been dead about 10 times by now, and somehow every time he survived. So I'm just getting kind of sick of him surviving everything. It's like, what's the point of even threatening this guy's life? Because every single time he's going to survive anyway, even by being shot in the head. So I'm just sick of him.
Okay. Yeah, I cannot keep track of all the gears. I only remember the last one that happened in the manga, the one after this, because everyone made this big deal out of it, and that was when I was actually reading the manga. So before deciding, Wano broke me. That arc broke me. I just put the series to the side after it. It just went on so long. But in regards to this, because I hadn't seen this one, I was like, okay, I guess that's his new power up. I know he's not going to actually finish off Doflamingo with this because we've got a whole lot of episodes left. And anyway, I know they weren't just going to beat the bad guy in less time than it took for Luffy to take out Bellamy. So we still got more, but I actually kind of thought the reveal of that was kind of funny. But other than that, it's just One Piece pacing problems. It's you just gotta kind of accept it at this point. Yeah. Why even keep bringing it up?
Yeah.
Okay. Yu Yu Hakusho, episode 55. All right. So, in this one, wait, is this episode 55 or is this episode 50? Yeah, this is episode 55. Sorry. Okay, so What?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I thought you said something there. Okay.
No.
All right. So it's episode 55 of Yu Yu Hakusho. Kurama's fighting, I can't remember his name.
Mm-hmm.
So Kurama is able to use that Idun box or whatever they called it to make himself back into his old sorry about that cough there. Back into Yoko Kurama, the version of himself he had before. He had to reborn himself as a human and such. So now he's really powerful and he's able to, go against the guy and seems to be winning now. So, yep, that was the episode.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what to say about this episode. What now? Rama, is he like a demon or what?
So Kurama, man, it was so long ago they actually explained all this. You might have forgotten. So he was the demon Yoko Kurama who was really powerful, but then I can't remember exactly how, but I think he got beaten or killed or whatever. So then he did something. So, okay, I'll be reincarnated, sort of as a human, and which he did, and which is why he's nowadays much less powerful than that. The Idun box, which we found, because the guy in the previous match used the thing to turn back time for him, but it went back so far it actually turned to his original super strong self, which is why he was trying to use it now to return to that original super strong self, which is why he starts winning when he gets that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, okay. It was a kind of straightforward episode, not too much to say.
Yeah, really.
All right, so Well, we return to our May Madness tournament of trying to watch a bunch of new series from this season of anime and narrow them down with one-on-one matches, much like most of the Bleach fights, really. So, for this one, we've got let me double check to see what the exact just were. Yeah, so we got Anne Shirley versus the Dinner Table Detective, and we got Witch Watch versus the Shiunji family children. All right,
Yeah,
so
really quick. I watched all four of these, then I panicked because I'm thinking, oh no, did I watch the right four shows? I was really scared for a moment. I'm like, great, did I just watch all that for nothing? But I watched the right ones, so nothing to worry about.
Yep. All right, so let's get into it. So what was interesting about this one was this anime, it's based on some pretty popular source material, and it doesn't even take place in Japan or in a fantasy world like it seems 90% of anime do nowadays. So it's about this orphan girl who gets adopted by this guy who really just wants to use her for work, but of course ends up genuinely caring for her and raising her with a woman who's actually not his wife or anything, which makes it a sort of more interesting kind of family. There's a bunch of cuteness from her and also some more serious stuff. But I don't know why I'm talking about Spy Family here. That doesn't premiere until later. So, okay. For serious, we'll move on. For seriousness. Okay, so just to describe these series very quickly, we got number 2 seed Anne Shirley, which is about, well, I kind of made the joke already, but basically it's just this it's this orphan girl who gets sort of adopted by this older brother and sister who were kind of expecting a boy because they just wanted someone, because they were kind of hoping to have someone to help them out. But so mix up there, but it seems like they're going to but then they decide, okay, we'll keep her. So got that. The number 15, these ranks, by the way, if you forgot it, are based on the My Anime List ratings at the time, was the Dinner Table Detective, which is about this woman who apparently is heiress to some big company but also decides, I'm going to work as a police officer under a fake identity because I don't know, but she is. And of course, a murder happens because that always happens whenever there's someone's a detective. And then unfortunately, they don't actually solve it. I guess that's what they do to make you watch the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that was, so that's those two. So we'll, I guess, see what all right, let's give it a go. So of the two, I'll just count to 3. We'll both say which one we want to go with, and we'll see if we match up the same things. Also, I discovered that when testing, for anyone listening, I actually, if you're listening to this, you might not notice this on your end, but the issue I kept having was we kept mismatching when we were saying it, and then I found out it was just like lag, basically. So
yeah, lag. So what are we saying for each one?
Yeah, we can just I don't know, we can just say Shirley or dinner.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, Shirley.
Dinner.
Oh, oh, okay. So we have a difference of opinion there.
Yeah, we do. We said them at the same time somehow. I don't know how that happened after we screwed up all those other times.
Well,
yeah.
Well, from my perspective, I heard you say that after I said it. So again, lag, maybe it's worse on my end or something. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you. Keep going.
No, that's okay. So of the 4 shows we watched this week, Aunt Shirley was the one that, even though I expected great things from this show, I was really bored during it, and while it was probably better than anything last week, it was still kind of boring. It was like, okay, so this very positive thinking girl goes into a very depressing situation, and now she's going through there just wasn't really anything interesting in it. But the other show, while I didn't expect much from it, maybe that's the reason. Maybe it's expectations, because I expected Anne Shirley to be really good. I expected this other show to be really bad, and instead, it kind of got me interested in trying to figure out who did this murder. I have my guess of who did it, but yeah, I found it more entertaining, and I actually felt like I wanted to see the next episode of it. Whereas, like Anne Shirley, I was kind of like, I don't really care. So that's kind of my reasons for picking the one I did.
Well, for me, I will say the Dinner Table Detective, considering how low it was, I did end up liking it more than I thought. At least once I turned off the English dub, which I thought was not very good. I ended up just turning it to a different language and watching it with subtitles on. But I thought Anne Shirley was a lot more interesting. Now, maybe some of it's because I goofed up and spoiled myself some stuff on the source material, because it's all based on the Anne of Green Gables book, which has gotten a zillion adaptations, including an anime adaptation that was made before this. And
what was that called?
It was I think in English, it was just called by the original name, Anne of Green Gables. I think in Japanese, though, the literal translation was just like red-haired Anne or something like that. Let me double check on to see if I can find out exactly what it was. Yeah, the literal Japanese translation of it is red-haired Anne. I don't know if that's the name of the original book in Japanese also, but in English they translated as Anne of Green Gables. There's actually I was surprised because I was looking up the original series. I decided to watch the first episode to compare it to this one, and there's actually an English dub of it. You can find it on YouTube. So it was apparently dubbed for South African broadcast. Never aired in the US. It was just dubbed for South Africa.
How do they? So they speak English, though, right?
In the dub, yeah.
Yeah. Just in South African accent.
No, they actually. Well, darn, I'm just realizing I'm not sure exactly what someone from South Africa sounds like, because I mean, like what people who live there are like. There's some South Africans that kind of came and are in different places, but in any event, no, they made it sound more like, I think. Well, actually, they sounded more British than anything else. So I don't know. I don't think they really sounded quite like they were from Canada, but maybe it was that area of Canada that had the accents. I don't know Canadian accents. Okay. So anyway, so that original anime aired in 1979 and was apparently really popular. So then they decided, all right, let's do a new anime, and that's this one, which, for the record, I should mention, comparing the two, the original moves much, much slower. When I say much slower, I'm going to say the first episode ends with Anne and Matthew. They're like he's still in the carriage driving to his house. They're like about to reach it, and that's where it ends. She doesn't even like meet what was her name? The woman, it starts with an M. I can't remember. Like Meryl Millard. Marilla. That was it. They don't even meet until the second episode. So as you can see, this is going much faster than that.
Yeah.
Oof. So anyway, I was really interested in the Anne Shirley one. I do think I didn't like it quite as much as I was expecting, but I still liked it too. It more. So let's see. All right. This is one of those things where I made a zillion notes when watching it on other things, and I'm trying to think, okay, I have all these things. I'm not going to list all of them. Which one should I actually mention?
Go ahead, I don't mind.
Okay. Well, I was also curious, so I looked at the book, at some of the early stuff in the book to try to see. Because I was like, okay, is this dialogue directly from the book? And the answer is comparing it to the book. It's not like directly, but it's very closely based on it. It seemed to me. So, yeah, that's the big stuff I would say. I just thought it was interesting, and I'm interested in seeing more of it. So, well, maybe we'll end up disagreeing on the other one like we did last week, and we can just we can do more intense negotiations to figure it out.
Right now, we're 2 and 3 on agreeing with each other. So,
okay.
This isn't going too good.
Yeah, I was actually I was surprised. I was by this. I was thinking there would be a lot more agreement on things. So, okay, let's move on to, we've got, again with the seedings, we got Witch Watch, seeded 7 versus the Hyunji family children, seeded 10. Okay, so Witch Watch is a series about this guy who's, well, they say he's an ogre, but it's Oni, which is actually, ogre is a more accurate translation. It's not perfect, but it's a better translation than how so many places just call it demon, which is it just because, okay, I'm sorry. I know I'm not supposed to editorialize at this point, but I gotta go on this tangent because it bugs me so much that so many places translate it as demon, which has totally different connotations. Because Oni is just kind of a Japanese sort of folklore thing, and it's kind of almost like vampire in that there's a zillion different iterations of it in media. Like just to put it into perspective. So this guy, he's an Oni. You want to know who else is an Oni? Rem and Ram from ReZero. Want to know who else is an Oni? All the demons in Demon Slayer. So they're totally different. So those can go in so many directions. Anyway, so he's basically Oni / ogre, so he's really strong. He ends up basically sort of becoming the familiar of this one witch in training, Nico, who he did know when they were younger. And then the episode is basically just bad cap hijinks of her spells going wrong, and them having to deal with it. Hyunji family children. It's it's about the Hyunji family children who then discover on, I can't remember, was it her 16th birthday or 7? I can't remember what it was. But on one of them, the father decides, all right, now seems a perfectly good time, before we've even done the actual celebration. We should, I'm sorry, I'm editorializing again. I need to stop this. He's saying, before we actually have it, I'm going to mention, by the way, none of you are related by blood. Well, except for you two. You two actually are twins, but the other 2 people who we told were twins are not actually siblings or twins. So that's what's going on. Well, there you go. And that's that was basically it. Also, apparently, at least one of the siblings seems to have a thing for her brother. So I guess we're gonna. So
one of them,
at least one. It wasn't clear with the other.
At least
but from
one, more than one, more like 5.
I was going to get to the fact I've heard this is harem, but at least there's only one that was explicit about it so far. So yeah. So and so I guess we're getting a harem with a bunch of siblings who are not related by blood. Okay.
So when are we gonna pick?
So
what are we gonna say?
we can just say children or witch watch.
Okay.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Witch watch.
Witch watch.
Oh, darn it, we agree. Now we can't. Now there's no good negotiations to do here.
Yeah, so Witch Watch was my favorite thing of the week. It was just really funny, and I liked how things just kept getting worse and worse for the main character, and how he like every time something happened, there's just something worse that came up for him, and he had to figure out a way out of it. And then you have that equivalent exchange thing going on where she has to use something that someone likes in order to fix something. So she like breaks his favorite mug in order to fix the glass. And then whenever that bully guy needs to fix that wall, she fixes it by using his hair as an equivalent exchange to put a spell on the wall that fits. So it just had so many funny moments in it. It was very enjoyable. Now on the other one, I actually like this. So, CG Family Children. I liked how, although I'll be honest, this goes back to one of those series I talk about all the time, Sister Princess, which is pretty much the exact same thing as this, with 12 sisters falling in love with their brother and then finding out that they're not related by blood, so then they can have a happy ending together. That's at least how the video game goes. The anime kind of plays it more straight, just kind of like never gets into the falling in love stuff. But so this remind me a lot of Sister Princess, which is like a guilty pleasure for me. I don't know why I've always liked it, but it's very moe, and so there, like the one girl who played tennis, she was very moe in this. So I enjoyed it, and I think that if it had been up against any of the other two, or maybe even against any before last week, it probably would have won. But Witch Watch was my favorite show of the week.
There were some things I liked about Shunji Family Children, although I will say there's that really forced part where one of the characters decides to tell his brother, he decides to tell them, hey, okay, so you know how we've got these siblings and we've known them for 12, 15 or whatever years. I'm going to tell you all the information about them that you absolutely know, but the audience doesn't. And I guess the author couldn't try to make it seem more natural. Yeah. But I don't know. The whole harem thing just makes it seem like that just seems kind of forced, because I was actually kind of liking the characters. I was liking them more than by the way, the person who made the manga of this is the same author as Rent a Girlfriend. So, and I was thinking, wow, these characters, I actually like them a lot more than the ones in that series. But then it's just like, oh, but we get a harem. I mean, I guess you can say props to going for what you've already done, but at the same time, that just made me a lot less interested in it. So yeah, whereas Witch Watch which actually also I didn't mention it, but Nico is like, is like very totally in love with Moe, the other guy. So we get that, but not a harem apparently so far.
Yeah,
So they're
not
both.
yet.
So we both got the. So they both are sort of the romantic comedy series. Also, I kept thinking that the pink-haired girl in Shiunji Family Children looked so much like mine from Akame ga Kill. Did you think that?
That didn't cross my mind, but
Okay.
the green-haired girl, the tennis girl, she really looked like the one of the girls from Rent-A-Girlfriend. I don't remember her name, but Ruka or something. I forget what her name was, but yeah.
Okay. So it's pretty obvious we're going with Witch Watch. Only question
Yeah.
is, then Anne Shirley or Dinner Table Detective. Well, I'll be honest, I liked Anne Shirley a lot more. So I don't know if you want to make a stand for Dinner Table Detective for us randomly to decide, or if you or if you want to choose Anne with me, or what.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you this one. So
Okay.
I'll have one in my back pocket.
Okay. Yeah, if you maybe you'll pull it out when Anne Shirley and Witch Watch go up against each other for the second round.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if that comes about then. But yes, you've got that there. So we are so this brings us to, well, we're let's see, so we're still in more disagreements and agreements so far. We'll see how that continues in there. All right, so we've gotten all of that. Was there anything else I want to mention? Because this might be the last opportunity they have to say for it. Oh, one thing this is what's funny. When I listened to the podcast and I realized, wait, I started to say something and they said, well, I'll get to it later. And then I never got to it. So it was in Teogonia, which we did drop, but I was going to say something about how it seemed like it was an isekai, but I wasn't sure if it was an isekai or it was just someone having visions of, regular Earth rather than flashbacks. Apparently I think it's just an isekai, although apparently it's not a huge part of that, but that was all I was going to say for that. For anyone who was wondering, what was he going to say about it? And okay, that's it. So we now have Anne Shirley advancing along with Witch Watch. Next week, we'll be finishing up with the round 1 matches here. We've got Kowloon Generic Romance versus the Brilliant Healers, New Life in the Shadows. And My Hero Academia Vigilantes versus the Unaware Atelier Meister.
Yep.
All right.
Now, what are these on? Are these all on Crunchyroll?
Yes.
All 4 of them?
All 4 of them.
Okay.
Yes. All 3 of the series that we had that were on Amazon, and all 3 of them got knocked out in the first round. Although I'll be honest, even though I was really pulling for Anne Shirley, I probably will go and watch the second episode of Dinner Table Detective just to see how that mystery concluded.
Yeah.
All right. So we've gotten those, and all right, well, we've got all those series. So once again, it's for next week. We'll have our regular Toonami lineup, Yu Yu Hakusho, and Kowloon Generic Romance, The Brilliant Healers, New Life in the Shadows, My Hero Academia Vigilantes, and The Unaware Atelier Meister. I know I said those all before, but I wanted to do it just to be sure. Man, if we get an upset and the Brilliant Healers New Life in the Shadows wins, I am going to keep goofing that up. I expect to keep saying Brilliant Heroes, because there's like 3 times I've said or was about to say hero instead of healer.
Yeah, you're saying it the Japanese way. The L's and R's mixed up.
Well, actually, hang on, let me check. Uh, do they actually use the English word healer, or is it just a Japanese equivalent of it? Let's see. Oh, yeah. Oh, they actually do write it out like phonetically like English, although apparently healer in Japanese is written hira, you know,
Hmm.
like Shira, except with a he instead of she. So,
Or
yeah.
Kira. Kira.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's an even better one. Yeah, Hira is apparently how it goes. In the full title of Ishunde Chirio Shiteta Nyoni Yakuda Tazu Totsui Ho Sareta Tensai Chiyushi Yami Hira Toshite Tan Oshiku Ikiru. I don't know why I thought it would be funny to say all that, but I did. Okay. Well, I guess that's all of that. We'll see if we end up with more agreements next week on these. Okay. So, that's all of that. Anything else to talk about?
Uh, no, not really. I don't have anything. Do you have anything?
Not in particular. To be honest, I don't think. I feel like I did have something to say, but now I'm
Oh yeah,
forgetting what.
I was continuing my Bleach watch. So uh we came about to the time where Orihime gets captured and uh old man Yamamoto tries to make it out that she betrayed the Soul Society, which which is like, okay, now I realize why what happens in the Thousand-Year Blood War happens because Yamamoto is just such an idiot. And he's just stupid. He should not be head captain. He's the worst guy you could have as your head captain because uh he's he's just not that smart and he uh has his own self-interest that he puts above the Soul Society even while pretending that he's thinking in the best interest of the Soul Society. He really isn't. So yeah, Yamamoto's just an idiot and this episode proved it. And then we get final confirmation once we get to Thousand-Year Blood War how stupid he is. But yeah, and um I continue to blog about it every day. My website is still TommyAPhillips.com and click on the Anime Bowl thing on there, and that's where I'm doing that. I have not ponied up for a new URL yet. But, uh, yeah, I'm still going through it. These last couple episodes have been pretty good. So, yeah, so now Ichigo's going to go to Waco Mundo, and now we're going to find out who's going to go with him. So that's where I'm at.
It's kind of funny because I remember in terms of Yamamoto making dumb decisions. Remember you actually I don't know if you do, but the part in that one filler arc where basically a guy's blaming him for something, and rather than just explain the situation as to that would completely clear things up, he's just quiet the whole time and doesn't diffuse the situation by just explaining things. Remember that?
What arc was that?
That was the one that had the princess character and the new captain of
Oh,
I
right,
think
right.
Squad 3.
That new captain of Squad 3. Yeah. I think I kind of remember it, but um, yeah,
Yeah.
he's not that smart. No.
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously to be fair, he is strong, but the problem is he's one of those characters who's really strong, but it seems but always has to, but even though they're so strong, they don't actually get to really do much because you always have to like nerf them somehow. Like, why doesn't he beat Aizen? Well, because Aizen got there to be this special hollow who was made specifically just to make it so that Yamamoto can't use his full strength. Okay, um and such. So yeah, he totally defeats. Well, he gets a really big victory in coming later on in Thousand Year Blood War. But oh wait, no, it was actually against it didn't take for reasons that I don't actually. I'm already maybe giving spoilers for it. Sorry.
Yeah,
but,
we're already spoiling it.
yeah. So that's the kind of thing there. Okay.
Yeah, he never gets to show off his true abilities, and uh, and then even back in the Soul Society arc, whenever he fights Shunsui and Ukitake, we never really see what happened in that battle. So,
Yeah, that wasn't it. That part was a little. I mean, at least we got to see the fact he was able to hold off two other captains, showing his
yeah.
strength. But it made more sense than when they reveal Yami is the strongest Espada, and then he gets beaten off screen by Kenpachi and Byakuya.
Yeah.
It's still, I will never forget that. Unless I just am thinking, that is what happened. There wasn't like some other thing that I'm overlooking that we saw. That's as far as I can remember what happens with that. But anyway, I guess at this point we're sort of circling the drain and just need to get to a conclusion on things. Although, actually, I guess one thing I might as well, because I happen to actually, I know you've been watching it, and I happen to watch it just because some family members decided, let's watch it. So I did kind of see the finale of Survivor for this season. So if you had anything you wanted to say about that, we could do that.
I was very happy with who won. I did not like the other two people in the final three, so I was very happy with the winner. And yeah, final episode was okay. There's some things that are annoying, but overall, I think it turned out okay. And and I did see who won the Amazing Race too. And I tuned in for like the final 15 minutes of it just to see who won. And I was like, okay, well, the people who I really didn't like, they came in third. So I'm okay with it. So yeah.
Yeah, I meant to get back to like go and keep watching it, but then I forgot because and then when I was like, oh yeah, I should be sure to watch the ending. I realized, oh dang, it's over now. Whoops. So that like I assumed it was still here. So when they're watching the Survivor stuff, I'm thinking, oh yeah, they'll have the Amazing Race after that, and I can watch it. And whoops, nope, looks like they didn't do. They were already done with that. Yeah, all I know is that the relatives who decided to watch it. That's why I decided to do it because we were together and they watched it, and they wanted the person who got second place to win. But then again, this was like their entire experience watching the season. So maybe if they had seen more, they would have had a different opinion.
Yeah.
We almost forgot. We need to say what our favorite shows on the Toonami and the non-Toonami things were in this episode. So
want me to go first?
Yeah, you can go first.
Okay, so Toonami, I'm picking 1000-Year Blood War. Non-Toonami, I kind of gave it away earlier, but Witch Watch, and the best girl of the week is Nico from Witch Watch.
Okay, well, for me, for Toonami, I will concur with Thousand Year Blood War. I unfortunately have a feeling that that's probably going to be winning a whole lot of weeks. So, and for the non-Toonami series, I'll pick Anne Shirley for this one. Okay.
All right.
All right. Yep. We got those in and did not forget. Actually, we totally forgot. We just decided we realized afterwards. So we started recording again, and this is going to be, and we're splicing this in later. So, but we remembered in time, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that, I think we're actually done. So we'll see you all next week for all the stuff that I mentioned that we were going to watch like 10 to 15 minutes ago or whatever. And so we'll try to do better next time.
Bye.
4 years ago, Ender Lilies took us on a sad but amazing journey.
Now the franchise returns with another banger called Ender Magnolia Bloom in the Mist.
This time you play as Lilac and a tuner on a quest to recover your memories and purify the land of fumes.
It's all about saving these artificial life forms called homunculi who've been driven to madness by the toxic mist.
But in order to free them, you've gotta beat them. Each one you defeat grants you its powers.
And then it's up to you to figure out the best combos to reach the upper levels of the kingdom. As you progress, you'll gather and upgrade various homunculi until you're ready for the final showdown.
So, is this sequel better than the original?
It's about the same, but the combat is smoother and a bit more fun.
We give Ender Magnolia Bloom in the Mist an 8.5 out of 10.
More human than human.